technology is always a solution in the crisis. So technology will be really handy. There are multiple areas in which this technology would be adopted. One area is in the conduction of admission tests, the learning space.
For online education to really become mainstream and enroll, millions of students rather than hundreds of thousands of students, we need to have online degrees that are accredited by the various agencies.
My message to all the students and higher education stakeholders is we need to double our efforts in this time in order to sustain and keep our economy afloat.
In India, we have to look at technology and education 4.0 as actually providing education to the uneducated, people who are not getting quality education.
Education 3.0 was nothing but technology driven. This is now going to be a permanent feature and is now going to figure in all the teaching learning activities of times to come.
Let me start off the discussion by introducing the panelists today here with us. We have got Captain Razdan, the Provost of Tolani Maritime Institute. Captain Razdan has over 45 years of operational and administrative experience. He served in the Indian Navy for over 23 years in the executive branch and specialized in anti-submarine warfare. He played a key role in the commissioning of the second aircraft carrier Virat and has commanded a Leander class frigate. He holds a Masters of Management degree and has been active in the college administration and teaching at Tolani Maritime Institute, Pune since 1999. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Next, we have Mr. Nasir Sheikh, the CEO of Lexicon Management Institute of Leadership and Excellence. He's a TEDx speaker, a CEO, a strategist, a motivational speaker, and a believer in himself award winner. He has won multiple awards like Debbie Marriott Harrison Take Care Award of Excellence 2017, Asia Pacific Take Care Award 2019, BW Hotelier General Manager of the Year 2017, and many other accolades. Welcome to the platform, sir. Next, we have Dr. Parag Sanghani, the Vice-Chancellor, Provost of Ppsavani University. Dr. Sanghani is an Endeavour Fellow from QUT, Australia, and has a global exposure of education system in Europe, Australia, and the UK. He has worked with a leading university in the United Arab Emirates as the head of academics. He has in the past handled 250 million USD PPP projects in education and infrastructure sector in the country. He has trained several executives in different parts of the world. For several years, he has taught subjects like innovation and creativity, information systems, and operations management to students across the globe. Welcome to the platform, sir. We will also be joined by Dr. Manimala Puri, the Vice-Chancellor of Symbiosis Skills and Professional University, Pune. Dr. Puri is an MTech from NIT Kurukshetra and a PhD from Guru Gobind Singh Indraprasth University, Delhi. She has over 30 years of experience in strategic planning, academic operations, brand building, teaching, and general administration. She was the director of All India Council for Technical Education. She is an expert member of the Peer Committee of National Board of Accreditation, Delhi. So let's begin this interaction, and I would request Captain Raj Razdan to start off the proceedings by sharing his opening remarks. Sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the introduction. I'll keep it brief to start with. First thing, since it has been announced, although this policy was being discussed earlier informally of the record, but now since it has been announced, I fully support it and the concept and the philosophy behind it. The emphasis is on the quality education, that's very important, and a vocational twist to what was earlier. I still remember that when I was in school in my time, there used to be always a vocational subject, but somewhere down the line, it drifted away from that. So emphasis on quality, teachers training, which is very important as per certain standards, and giving them a due respect, what they deserve in the society. And right from the childhood, I mean, what I like about it that the emphasis is right from the childhood and all sections of the society. And I was going through the NEP and it says up to 8 years. The first group is from 0 to 3 and the next is from 3 to 8. So I had a little doubt, what is this 0? And I came to know that 0 means that even the pregnant ladies will be educated about their nutrition and how to take care of the child which is going to come. So that's a very wise thing to do. And if it's cut across societies to the lower strata, I think that's a wonderful thing to happen. We are involved in as part of a CSR in 13 Anganwadis. So I was very happy to see that so much emphasis is being given to early education, that too in mother tongue. So the concepts are clear. Once the concepts are clear and we emphasize upon the quality, I think the way ahead will be clear. I'm sure that there are eminent people here who will be talking more about it. Thank you.
Right, sir. Thank you for your remarks. Mr. Sheikh, can we have your opening remarks, please?
Thank you. Captain Razdan, before I pass my opening thoughts, I just wanted to let you know that my father was one of the engineers that built the first Giri class and the Leander class frigates.
Oh, that's great.
At Mazgun Docks before. So just as a thing, so I heard that you commanded them. So
yes,
just a pleasure knowing that, sir. So when Nilgiri had got launched, he was responsible for the propulsion and the shafting of the ship, which was the first keel-up ship that was made. So I just thought I'd share that with you.
Great.
Really a pleasure to see you out here, sir. So just in terms of my thought process on the policy is, firstly, I think this is a policy that is geared towards preparing both our students and our faculty for both meaningful, satisfying lives with responsible citizenship roles as they move out, keeping both the global outlook and the Indian ethos in place. I think this policy has, in a way, liberated education. And, I was in conversation with the president of the Lexicon group, which we are part of, and he made a quote saying that if Goddess Lakshmi was liberated in 1991, Goddess Saraswati has been liberated with this policy in 2020. I think it's a progressive, outstanding policy, which looks into the benefits of a 360-degree learning process and takes out bureaucracy from education. It is also one which is uplifting and which is trying to create one equal platform for education so that nobody is denied the basic need of education. The key would be execution. I think it's an outstanding policy. Now it is to see how we are able to execute that across the country to create a momentous landmark statement to the world, because we are the home for the first global university. And now we are going to take our education processes and policies again to the next level. So just these are initial thoughts from my end.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for sharing your remarks. And Dr. Sanghani, can we have your opening remarks, please?
Yeah. Thank you, Collegedunia, for inviting me for this webinar. And I think this new education policy, as Professor Sheikh says, is liberalization and globalization moment for higher education in India. We for years have been Lord Macaulay's education system. After independence also we had continued with this is the policy which first time take out from Lord Macaulay's wishes of having a British software and with the Indian hardware. So that systems now we are really going to put an Indian software through this policy into our kids in a lighter tone when I say. But yes, this is something where from equity and access, we are moving towards the quality in terms of flexibility, in terms of multidisciplinary approaches. So this policy is taking educations totally differently from the way till now we have looked to the education largely. So I personally felt that there are a lot of good things. This is what we said: creativity and innovations, life skills, the language. So in overall nutshell, whatever the pain areas of a Indian higher education, this policy has touched from the early childhood to the higher education. So it encompasses all field of education through this policy. So I personally felt that is a very well thought out policies, and now we all have to seriously look upon how we are going to able to implement. And India is notorious for failure in implementations, not in intent, not in content, not into that. We are very notorious in the way we implement good policies. So I cross my finger and I wish that at least this policy we all should work hard to implement in its all totalities. So that's what I think we all have to work now on the same.
Thank you, Dr. Parag, for sharing your views. And I think we have Dr. Puri with us over the audio. Dr. Puri, are you there with us? I think she's not. So let's move on to let's move ahead with the discussion. So my first question to Captain Razdan is, sir, how will this increased investment in the education by both the state and the central government impact the education sector in a longer run?
Yeah, okay. I was looking into the NEP as to what exactly is there any amount mentioned somewhere regarding this. I couldn't find it. But in 1.5 article, it says that funds for this program will be provided by the central and state government. And here it is expressly talking about early childhood care and education system for the Anganwadis, which will be strengthened with high quality infrastructure, play equipment, well-trained Anganwadi workers through teachers. So they are establishing standards just like in ISO for every Anganwadi. And as you know, the Anganwadis are in the villages and towns, and from there when the children come up who have basic concepts with them and the interest in studies, I'm sure things will look up very well thereafter. So that's where I think the infrastructure comes right at the grassroots level. And of course, thereafter it goes to the medium school and the higher education, the infrastructure on teachers training and research facilities, of course, will need a lot of funding, both from center and state. This is also, it mentions further on that for any viable research projects, there will be funding available.
Thank you for that, sir. Adding on to sir's point, Dr. Parag, how will an increased focus on research help the colleges and the students and the industry overall?
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Hello. I think
yes, sir.
I lost you.
So my question was, how will an increased focus on research help?
We lost our moderator, I think.
Are you there?
I am here. Am I audible?
I can hear you.
Yes. To me, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I think we're having a technical issue with. Dr. Parag, can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can hear you. Go ahead.
Sir, my question was, how will an increased focus on research help the colleges, students, and industries overall?
See, if you look the top developing nations, and if you see the contribution of a higher education to the overall GDP, you will find that the developing countries or developed nations have a huge impact of a higher education on their GDP. And in that context, if you see the creations of a national research, foundation, is a welcome step, because see, again, to take back to the Professor Razdan's issue of investment, the very limitations of this policy I can see is that where the all money and the resources will come, and there's the biggest questions which we all have to look upon in this policy, because one hand you are looking for a private sector to contribute equally through this policy, but at the same time there are no provisions which we I can see that which recognize the contribution of private sector. So as far as NRF guidelines that whether till now private sector has been treated sector money, but at the same time no reasonable surplus also will be allowed. And today if you look into the all the private sector universities, each and every one, almost 400 plus private universities, almost 90% are facing challenges because of income. While globally the scenario is different, there is no demarcation between private and public when the research funding has to be done. And I think we are looking for NRF, though the creations in the policy is very good, the separations of a research from the grant, the separation of research from the approvals and all that, it's a welcome step. But if we have not treated private and public institution at par and started thinking private as a enemy of a state, I think we have a hypocrisy still in this policy visible. That one hand you want private sectors to invest in education, and another hand you want private sector to do only for charity. I think this is we have.
In between, we do lose the audio.
Captain Razdan, your views on Dr. Parag.
10 out of 7 economy, developing.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you for the remarks, Dr. Parag.
Somewhere in the NEP, I read that at this point of time, India is spending about 0.69% of the GDP on education, whereas some of the US and China are spending more than 2.5%. So now, having recognized that, I'm sure in years to come, some better allocation will be done. That is point one. And second thing, I entirely agree with Dr. Parag that private and government sectors have to go hand in hand, and this cannot go on as a charity. This has to be duly funded. From where the funding comes, I'm sure with the times to come, things will be clearer. But it cannot be charity alone, except where the government specifically looks into certain key sectors where they want to take over perhaps and not allow the private players. But as I see now, like yesterday we saw Defense Minister saying that 101 items are open for just going towards a self, or what he calls it, Atmanirbhar Bharat. That's a welcome step, but then we have to see. And as Dr. Nasir said, implementation. Only time will tell.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Mr. Sheikh, my next question is to you. Will the NEP help develop the right skill sets in students, and will this increase the employability on a whole and make us more future ready? Will this help us in increasing creativity, life skills, cognitive thinking?
So,
will this help the students?
So first and foremost, one thing that we need to recognize that this is a long-term plan and long-term vision. So the execution timelines are there, which are defined out there. I think all three of us have emphasized on one critical aspect in different ways, is the key execution of the policy. If you look at every aspect of it, be it the early years, education to mid-years or the senior level education, it is giving more and more emphasis to the holistic development of a student. So there's no hard separation of a curriculum between art, science, the vocational subjects, sports. What it does now is it gives a lot of opportunity for innovative pedagogies to come in place, which can then be further explored and looked into. Also, we are talking about a holistic report card, and we are emphasizing on the vocational education. What this will help us do is to create mindsets in both the students and parents of a more open-ended education, which will then encourage people to go for more liberal arts, more creativity, to express themselves. A lot of time our education system was expecting a fish to run 100 meters race or a sprinter to swim. And I think this policy addresses that to a large extent. It obviously is very important that we as individuals who are responsible in our different various roles on the execution of it, and well, very rightly said, we need the support. And I'm sure that over the period of time, when the budgets are laid out, we will see a generous allocation towards education. The policy also kind of emphasizes on the support that we will get on infrastructure. Like SEZs till now was only special economic zones. We are now talking SEZs in terms of special education zones. We're talking about utilizing unused capacities of schools which exist, and we have a lot of infrastructure in place, utilization of that. Then we're talking about resource sharing between clusters and complexes. It's there's a great thought process that's gone into the policy. Now we need to put timelines to each task being executed, allocations and accountability and responsibility given, so that it is executed perfectly.
Right, sir. Another question stemming from this initial question is, what about the traditional courses? What will be the career prospect for an MBA student due to this revised policy? Captain Razdan, your take on the same?
Well, in the short run, if he is going to pass out now, I don't think this is going to make any huge difference. But maybe in the long run, when things are more specializations come into place, I think the areas will be very better defined.
Talking about specializations, Mr. Sheikh, what particular courses do you see becoming popular going in the future?
So what I strongly believe, I don't think that the current courses in terms of the MBAs, will lose out the relevance in terms of skill set, because one of the key aspects that we talk about in MBA is about defining management and helping learn management of finances and marketing, human resources. But in the end, it all boils down to people skills and how you kind of utilize that for success. So the relevance will continue with more emphasization and skills kind of coming in play. In terms of popularity of courses, you will see a lot more people going into micro specializations. And the reason I say that is it's a dual impact. One, we've got the impact of the pandemic that has come in play. So people will get and second is the new educational policy. So people will want to have an holistic understanding of what's happening, but will go for micro specialization so that their skill sets are very, very unique to somebody else. You will also see a lot of excellence coming out and excellence portrayed, because there's a lot of application that we are talking about versus rote learning. And now what application does is allow people to find out different things that they can do to kind of enhance themselves. The policy will also allow a self upskilling and enhancement, with people wanting to look at a lot more things to do versus just focusing on the curriculum per se.
Right, sir. Dr. Puri, are you with us? Yes, sir. My question to you is... Yes. My question to you is, will the common entrance test help the institutes in simplifying the admission process? or will it dilute the different objectives that each institute guns for?
No, I don't think it will dilute. This common entrance test will actually simplify everything for everyone. There is a lot of confusion amongst the students. There are so many entrance tests. So they are giving JEE, then they are giving a CET from Maharashtra if they want to try somewhere else. So, they are confused and they are spending a lot of money ending up filling forms and, they're confused. And sometimes the dates also of different entrance exams clash. So I think a common entrance test will simplify everything for everyone and will have a more uniform policy of assessment of the student.
Thank you, Dr. Puri. Thank you so much. And my next question is to Dr. Parag. Dr. Parag, are you here with us?
Yeah.
Dr. Parag, can you hear me? So my question is, adding on to the point Dr. Puri made, how will the institutes leverage this policy in order to gel in with their mission? How will they have a leverage a mentoring mission?
See, one thing we all have to understand that this policy is a 20 years span. So it's not that tomorrow onwards everything is going to change. The major leverage for the universities are the, very important for the higher education is the multidisciplinary.
I think we're facing some technical issues. Moving on to the next question. Dr. Puri.
Universities. So today onwards, if you are only running single discipline like manage, can you hear me?
Hello?
Yes, sir. Your voice was breaking. So we'll move on to another question. Dr. Puri, how crucial or beneficial the recommendations of NEP are in order to solidify the quality of education? Most of the dignitaries have impacted on this and have shared their views. I would like to know your views on the same.
Yes, sure. So let us look at the impediments the current system had. The current system was straddled with teacher quality, coerced for choices for students, whether to go for science, arts, lack of focus on life skills and behavioral competencies, lack of focus on application of skills, lacunae in the accreditation system, and the missing component of localization that was missing from the entire education system, barring a few institutes which were doing that. Then there was a diluted focus on research. Affordability of education was another question which was coming up and it could not be addressed properly. Then infrastructure to support education, inclusivity. So if you look at all these impediments, in my opinion, the NEP should be applauded to address each of the above areas. It is a policy that shifts the entire education system from assimilation to manifestation. So I think the recommendations will definitely go a long way in improving the quality of education in India.
Right, ma'am. Dr. Parag, will these changes encourage the students towards a career as an entrepreneur?
I don't think your question.
I think we're facing Captain Razdan. Your views on the same?
See.
Please go ahead.
I think you disconnect. So, Captain Razdan, your views.
Can you please repeat the question?
My question was, will these new changes encourage students towards a career as an entrepreneur?
I think it's a little early to say that. Let it be in place first. And like somebody asked the question, what are the prospects of MBA? I mean, nothing is going to happen in the next 2 months or let's say even a year. It will take time. So whether entrepreneurship is something which is within you, whether you want to take over and take certain amount of calculated risk or not, it's not easy. I think it's linked to the CET which Dr. Puri was mentioned. My view is that common CET is a wonderful idea. So the person gives one exam. But in addition, like I am talking specifically for maritime sector and partially for defense sector also, I am sure services will not like to let go to service selection board at all, because whether a person is really fit to join armed forces, same way we look forward during our test and interview and aptitude and psychometric aspect of it, whether he is fit for this sector. That is also very important in addition to, and also let's say medical standards, in addition to being academically fit. So that I suppose may continue, although it's not clear in this, but that will come.
Mr. Sheikh, my next question is to you, sir. Will the new standards assessment set for the teachers help improve the overall strength of the education system?
I'm sorry. Who are you asking the question to?
I'm addressing to you, Mr. Sheikh.
Okay. Could you just repeat the question, please?
My question was, will the new standards of assessment help the teachers, and will it help and overall strengthen the entire education system?
So I think more from the perspectives of enhancing the teacher education, I think this will be very, very good. And in terms of developing them, the aspects that they have put in with minimum hours of training that should be there per teacher per year. Then the aspect that they've again kind of spoken about how teacher education needs to evolve. The support that the government will give in terms of the different bodies that are there. I think this will enhance that. Also, what it will do is, because of the style that is there in terms of the whole process, where the education process is going to be in a way that is more holistic, it will allow innovative pedagogies coming out from the teachers in terms of how they kind of deliver the whole aspect of the education. The other piece that is there is the total support that is going to be given also to the students, which will enhance the support that the faculty has on that aspect. They're talking about technology-based, comprehensive teacher requirement planning and forecasting exercises. They're talking about career growth. They're talking about the national professional standards for teachers by 2022. They're talking to have teachers to have more autonomy in terms of the aspects of pedagogy, like I spoke about. They're speaking about how academic leadership positions to be made available for teachers. So there's a lot of things that are going in. Even in terms of the development program for teachers, they're talking about the merit-based tenure track program. So there's a lot of emphasis that a thought process that's been given overall on the bit. So I think it'll definitely be an advantage. And I keep mentioning this, it is the execution that is the key. If you go through the policy, I think all the salient features are outstandingly portrayed and laid out. Now the key is, how do we execute it?
Thank you for the remarks, sir. Dr. Parag is with us again. And Dr. Parag, sir, I think we're still facing some technical error over there. Dr. Puri, are you with us?
Yes.
Dr. Puri, my question to you is that don't you think that the government has missed out on an opportunity of using industry as a bridge between students and the recruiters? The recruiters, as the bridge between the students as well as the the colleges, the institutions.
Sorry, I didn't get your question. I am very able to hear.
Sorry, my question was
audio, but can you repeat the question? Yeah.
I'm saying that don't you think that the government has missed the opportunity of using industry as a bridge between students and the educational institutes and the recruiters?
No. I don't think so, because they have a mentoring system in place, and the educational institutes have to leverage that. For example, if you see, AICT has already come up with a very good scheme and tied up with E-Internshala. So, E-Internshala is, not E, but Internshala. So there we have tied up with various industries and who provide internships to students. Similarly, for the mentoring, there will be a pool of people from the industry, scientists from the government who are ready to mentor these students. So I think under that scheme, the government has definitely, given us a scope of, using the industry connect and to bridge the gap between industry and academia.
Right. And moving forward, Captain Razdan, how important is the balance between the local and the global context as recommended by the policy? The focus on local languages, local cultures, and building a global competence. How do you see that bringing an impact in the longer run, like you mentioned earlier also? And in the longer run, how does it impact?
You see, I'm in maritime sector, and in maritime sector, we have always been global. Always. I mean, there's hardly any Indian shipping to talk about. So all the people we train or they're trained in India per se, they are for the global market. And the link is always the English language. Although we do pick up others like Spanish or German or French as required. So that is up to the individual kind of, whether it's need. It's all need based. And if you are working somewhere more in France or you're working in some Spanish coast and South America, you do learn new things. So we have always been global. So, and the NEP also talks about meeting global standards. That's very important. That you are globally competitive. Now, here we have always been trying to make students who are globally competitive. Fortunately, there are international standards laid down. So we need to follow that and try and go above that. Not just minimum standards, but try and go above that. So there's a long way to go. Of course, if we have to be globally competitive, not only we have to meet minimum possible standards, but we have to go a step more than that to be a preferred country. In global market, you have to be preferred. And a lot depends upon attitude towards work. Anybody can work. No rocket science in most of the things. But then if we are willing, that willingness and attitude to work, that's the key. And I suppose that's in all sectors.
Right, sir.
Yeah.
Mr. Sheikh.
Can I add to that?
Yes, please. Please go ahead.
Sure,
Hello?
Please. Yes, ma'am, please.
Yes. So when we are talking of what Captain Razdan said, I'll just add a little bit to that. When we are talking about the balance between the local and the global context, I would say that the national education policy envisions an India-centered education system. Of course, it envisions the system that can contribute directly to transforming our nation, by providing high-quality education to all. But it is a true national policy that is suited to our strengths and our requirements as a country. And it is not a copy-paste, because if you look at our current state, data shows that 28% of public primary and 14% of upper primary schools have less than 30 students and even less. And 119,000 single teacher schools are working. This shows that we have not yet touched the quality aspect of schools. And due to the small size of schools, it is very difficult or next to impossible to allocate good human resources and physical resources like laboratory equipment, library books, etc. So then there is, these are not working optimally. So what our policy has done, it has, come up with a school complex where these resources can be utilized. And even if you look at higher education institutes, India has over 900 universities, more than 45,000 colleges, and over 40% of all these colleges run only single program. And over 20% of colleges have enrollment below 100, while only 4% have colleges over enrollment over 3,000. So this data shows us that there are rigid boundaries of disciplines and fields. There is lack of research. There is lack of access in socio-economically disadvantaged areas. There is lack of teachers. So this ground reality also has to be looked into. And yet, our national education policy is going to tackle all these problems. Plus, yes, besides this, we have to also look at our global goals, which, for example, if you look at World Intellectual Property Organization data, it says China made 133 patents applications, of which only 10% were by non-residents, and USA filed 6 lakh patents, while India filed only 45,000 patents, out of which 70% were by NRIs. So you have to look at what our global goals are also there when we are competing with countries like China and USA. So the task here is to stand and build on a local context and then to effectively move towards global goals. So I think this was my take on this local and global.
Mr. Sheikh, thank you so much, ma'am, for sharing those views. Mr. Sheikh, can you share your views on the same?
I think Captain Razdan and Puri ma'am have kind of covered that to a big perspective in there. One of the things from our perspective to kind of enhance global outlook has been addressed in the form of how they're going to be looking at credits and how they're going to be addressing gap years and how they're going to take that forward. So it gives the opportunity for a person to kind of switch between countries in terms of the education that is also there. It's because there is a lot of segmentation that's come there. The other thing which is critical is mindset, and I strongly believe that it's very, very important that the leadership, the academic leadership, the leadership that are going to run the education and deliver it, have to have the mindset where they are able to balance both the local outlook and at the same time the global outlook. Now, like Captain Razdan mentioned, in Maritime, they've always looked at the global piece because you cannot singularize it to be it just local. Similarly, I think when it comes to management, while there are aspects of culture that you look at locally, you also kind of have a global outlook already in place. The fact that our educational system primarily runs in English talks about how global is the language that we're looking at, right? I'm just talking about something as basic as that when you look at it from a mindset perspective. Don't take that literally, please. But it just tells you that the global outlook exists. What we now need to do is build up, ensure that we are picking on trends and how we can collaborate on trends. The policy also talks about resource sharing. It also talks about clustering together, collaborating together. So it's about, again, leveraging those collaborations and eliminating any blockages, bureaucracy and blocks that we may have between a cluster of institutions also, so that students can leverage. So I think on the whole, it does, while it is India-centric, and which it should be, because we want to ensure that we are building, we don't have brain drain, but we have brain gain. On the whole, it has a perspective towards the global world.
Thank you for sharing your views, sir. Dr. Puri, my question to you is that what roadblocks do you see ahead? I mean, every panelist here has talked about the implementation part and the number of challenges that we're going to face. So what do you see as the main roadblocks towards this implementation of the policy?
Yes. It is a huge change from the present system to coming in line with this new education policy. So whenever there is a change, there is a resistance first. So a couple of challenges that every change is associated with will also be seen here. And there'll be stages of, letting go, there'll be confusion, there'll be reorientation, and then there'll be recommitment. So it's going to be a journey. Letting go stage will see resistance from some quarters. The confusion stage will see chaos for some time. So we'll be in that state for some time. And then the leadership skills to drive this transformation at the state level and the country level, the discipline and the rigor which is required to drive this change will matter. So the core challenge here is going to be ensuring accountability to this vision at the grassroots level. So what will matter is how it is implemented at the grassroots level. So of course we'll see a few years, maybe some time in some chaos and some confusion, But definitely, if the leadership is there, the discipline is there, we'll be able to have this implemented. So these will be the challenges.
Right. Captain Razdan, there's a question coming up that many states have been opposing the use of the local language to impart knowledge at primary levels. What is your take on the same?
I honestly have not understood what exactly is the problem, because there are many states maybe that ruled by opposition, so they have to say something about it. There may be one reason, or I see no problem in up to 8 years in mother tongue, because the policy says that the brain development occurs prior to the age of 6. So by the time he's 8, if he's taught in mother tongue, which is we can best understand the concepts and then build upon any language thereafter. Children pick up languages very fast. I don't see any merit in these doubts. In case they have doubt, they may be having some key issues which I am not personally aware. But I don't see any really problem in this, honestly.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
I'll just add on to Puri ma'am's points, right? Means if you identify and you want to kind of break down the challenges, you can break down into 3 points from my perspective. One is mindset. There has to be a mindset of unlearning to learn, and that will be very, very critical.
Correct.
The second aspect is our political system will be one of the biggest challenges that we face. Because like Captain Razdan said, sometimes you oppose for the sake of opposition.
Right.
So I think getting the alignment together as the complete political system will be critical to its execution. Because if you have, states opposing it and causing roadblocks, it may give a challenge. The third aspect, I think, is infrastructure. With the whole aspect of even now, and we can take this webinar as an example, the technology challenges that exist in terms of digital education, going online, which is an important part of the new policy. So as a nation, we'll have to move on a war footing to be digitally, technically equipped for us to be able to deliver the education to every doorstep. I think that is the other aspect that I think will be a big challenge.
Adding on to your question, I would like remarks from each of our panelists on the same. With the online education, like you said, becoming the need of the hour, and NEP's support and resources in incorporating a new channel for education for every student. How do you see the institutions, setting up systems and processes in order to address this? Captain Razdan, we'll start off with you, sir.
No, I missed you in between.
My question was that with online education becoming the need of the hour,
Yes.
and the support from NETF and resources incorporation will be a challenge, right? And how do you see institutes stepping up to this challenge, and how will they incorporate the whole curriculums into the online channel?
I will like to take it as an example. Like we are since mid-March have gone online.
Right,
There was no choice, but we had to go online. So we are still facing challenges in terms of connecting with students, because some are in Himachal Pradesh where there is no internet connection. Some are in Bihar, there's a floods there, and there's a drought somewhere. So he's more worried about that. That his house is getting, blown away, rather than worried about internet connection. So those issues are always there and will remain there. So on the lighter side, I think that's why India has probably not said no for 5G to why. Maybe somebody else will come. But yes, there is a long way to work out on an infrastructure where we are seamlessly connected without any problems. I remember 30 years back somebody talking that the real revolution will come. There was Dr. Polraj, who is now eminent in the professor in Stanford University, and he said that final outcome will be that everyone has a communication device on his wrist, which is so reliable that the only way you don't get him is that he doesn't want to answer you or he's dead. There's no third way. Thank you.
Thank you for that interesting example and your remarks, sir. Dr. Puri, can we have your remarks on the same?
And what is that? Sorry?
The preparedness towards imparting education on the online platform. How will the
online?
Yes. How will the institutions?
Yes.
And the structure.
Correct. So see, online, when you talk of online education, this pandemic has made us, all of us, ready for that. So there are a lot of, courses come up for teachers where people are teaching them how to do online teaching and all that. So I think, when you talk of this online education, we were forced. If we would have, waited for some more time, our teachers would not have been that prepared to take up this challenge. But we have been now forced to jump into this and get ourselves trained and, conduct courses online. And of course, the online assessment and examinations, most of the institutes and universities have during these trying times, come up with different systems. For example, if you talk of, our university Symbiosis, we had a very robust examination engine which we could test it at this point of time. We could take proctored exams on that. So all our online assessment and examinations happened through that. And of course, when you talk of online, you already have through the Swayam portal a lot of MOOCs courses available, which already the government had put forth and the UGC and AICT were encouraging. But people were not using them to that extent. But this pandemic has forced us to look at those options also. And of course, UGC realizing this, where was allowing a credit transfer of about 20%, now is given a go-ahead for up to 40%. You can have, courses mapped with MOOCs and students can take those courses, clear the exams and get credits. So I think, again, it's a matter of time, but I think, yes, everybody should be able to take up that challenge and get in line with that also.
Thank you for remarks, ma'am. Finally, final remarks from you, Mr. Sheikh, on the same.
So my thoughts are, as far as the institutions go, the preparedness part out there is easy. Some may be a little ahead, some may be in the middle, some may be a little behind. But the preparedness part, that's the easy part of it for us to kind of get there and be there quickly. Because it's a little bit about investment in infrastructure and investment in training and doing that. I think the biggest challenge that is there is the infrastructure at the student end, where there is limited GB available. When you have online conversations or trainings happening or sessions or classes happening, you get feedback saying there's only 2 GB of data that I have, or I have limited. Sir mentioned about the floods and the accessibility to it. We have to find a way, and if digital education has to win, the government has to support the telecom companies to make internet extremely accessible to every individual, literally at no cost. That will ensure that the conversations that are happening are real time. The other aspect that I think institutions would do well, and we've started doing this, is along with live sessions, creating a repository of digital content to assist in asynchronous learning and synchronous learning at the same time. So sometimes what may work really well is that the content of the lecture, a synopsis, can be sent in earlier, then the lecture may happen, and the complete recording then has to be available to the student on a certain platform where it's done. So, there are multiple platforms today available, some which have been developed by the institutions themselves, or some which are global products. So it's also about choosing the right one to make it as easy as they say that it can be. If you remember, there was at one time.
Sorry, we're done. We're out of time. Thank you so much for being a part of this session.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.